Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Speaker Freedom TV's Journey to Freedom. I am your host, Dr. Kaci, and this is our special guest today, Leanne. Hey, Leanne.
Hey, Casey. Excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here as well. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I guess I always forget this when I'm introducing myself. I'm from the Philippines, so other side of the world at the moment. I run a executive assistant outsourcing agency to XU, and I guess a cool part is I've been doing this since I was 15 years old. I've been working online since someone said like, "Hey, I like the way that you write. Can you ghostwrite for me?" And I'm like, "I'm 15. I have no idea what to do, how to do this. It's 2011, but I'll figure it out." And that's basically my life journey. It's been a journey of stumbling upon different things to get to where I am.
So, about your business, what do you guys do?
So we basically specialize in hiring, managing, and growing executive assistants. And on top of that, part of the service is we have something that we call the 2XU BOS, our business operating system, which is basically you can think of it as like Lego blocks in someone's business. Like when you start a business, you're just barreling through it, just surviving. You're just trying to get to the next month to month. So what we try to do is we build up different frameworks in a client's business. So we have like, hey, do you have your client tracker? Do you have your CRM? Okay, we can have your assistant help build that with you. So it's basically just a list of, or a checklist of assets, databases, dashboards that we've kind of collected in the last couple of years ourselves that we've seen are really helpful when it comes to running a business. So you're not just surviving month to month.
Okay, that sounds like a dope little business. So you said you got into this line of work by kind of somebody suggesting that you ghostwrite. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was from being introduced to it, then to where it is now?
Yeah. So when I started out at 15, I here in the Philippines, we used to have a different education system where at 15, I actually just graduated high school and I was about to go
Oh,
into college. Right now they've synced to everyone else's education system. But at that time I was pretty young. And this was 2011 where I just got my first laptop, which is always exciting. And basically I was wandering around. I had a blog, and then people were coming to it and they're like, "Hey, I like the way you write, ghostwrite for me." I'm like, I have no idea what ghostwriting is. Looked it up, started doing it, used my mom's name for PayPal because I wasn't 18 yet. And then kind of just kept stumbling upon like gig after gig. I would get graphic gigs or video editing gigs. I would basically try something myself, post it on at that time, the very, very old Facebook,
mm-hmm.
and kind of kept going from there. And then kind of part of my story is when I was 18, I went through a category 5 typhoon,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that there was a mini tsunami that came into our city because the water's rising going into the city. It was pretty scary because our house was near the sea. It was pretty terrifying witnessing a storm surge. And at that time, I was 18. I was the eldest of four, so I was taking care of everyone. Both my parents weren't there because my dad was working overseas. My mom had a training like 2 days before the typhoon. So it was pretty scary. And the water started rising up to my neck. And I was like, I probably am gonna die. I'm gonna probably drown here because all of our furniture basically was floating towards me, trying to get me down. And I had, instead of my life flashing backwards, I flashed forward of like having a life where I was following the usual Asian path of either you're an accountant, lawyer, or doctor. My mom picked lawyer. Um, and that was that was supposed to be where I was going to go. And I remember I didn't like it. I hated it. I wanted to change my life. And I made a vow to myself that if I'm going to survive this, I am going to follow the path that I've started on, which was freelancing. So then I somehow got out of there. My whole family was safe, thank God.
Thank
And then, but
God.
since then, I actually dropped out of college because the PTSD was too much being in my own hometown. So I actually
Mm-hmm.
left And at 18, I had no idea what I was really doing, but I was following this path of like writing, of freelancing. Got a job at a publishing company because I also self-published my book like a month before. I was just again kind of running around with a head as a headless chicken, but I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then became CEO of that publishing company a few years later because again that yes and attitude of mine of like I'll figure it out. And then a few years later, as you know, a few years of just running that, I was like, oh, I want to start my own business. I want to start a business where I can provide jobs for Filipinos to work from home, so then they don't have to not have a choice for themselves. So that's kind of how 2XU came about. It started out as a course of how to hire a virtual assistant. And then one of our students said, I love what you teach, but can you just do this for me? And we're like, okay, we'll figure it out. Sure. Then that's how we turned 2XU from a product to a service. And yeah, a few years later, we're still here. We're growing. It's we just yesterday we won a Stevie Award for
Congratulations.
thank you. Our employee was it innovation and milestone creation. I forgot what the actual award was, but it's all been pretty exciting.
So would you say that the path that you've taken has really been your journey to freedom through your business, or what would you consider to be the path of freedom for you?
It's the path of being able to work anywhere. Like I said, like part of my story for both my parents, the reason why they weren't there was because of work, because their work brought them to different places and not have the choice to be at home. And for my dad, I would only see my dad like once or twice a year because for 6 months at a time he would be off on a boat in Norway or somewhere in Europe, bringing home the bacon so we can have a really good life. So I wanted to have a life where I can literally work anywhere. And that's been kind of the biggest freedom for me and the freedom that I'm hopefully giving to a lot of our assistants and of course our clients because they can work anywhere. They don't have to be just stuck to wherever office they're assigned to.
So what has been one of the hardest things of getting free from the mundane and the condition path that I think most people when they grow up you see what's available and then that is mainly only thing that you hope for because that's the only thing that you see. What has been the thing that you had the hardest time with in the transition and how did you conquer that?
I would definitely say that the hardest thing, two main things. One, it was a path that I've never seen anyone take before. Like freelancing was so foreign at that time. People thought that because I was freelancing, I was either a cam girl or I was doing something that was a scam.
Right.
So that was the first one, was like there was no path. And it was interesting to find books like I freaking huge bookworm of For Our Work With by Tim Ferriss, where he talks about like, hey, location freedom. And I'm like, okay, that I think that's the thing that I want. So that was the first thing. The second was the Asian family guilt of since I'm the eldest, I'm supposed to be following this particular path, making everyone proud because it was the path that everyone else has followed. My mom was in her fourth year of going through law. So it was very much just the familiar expectations. Like there was a lot of fighting involved, there was a lot of guilt, there was a lot of back and forth. But I had just this gut feeling that I looked at the path that they gave me already. Like literally the universe showed me what that looked like and I hated it. And I'm like, that's kind of it started off as me running away and now it's thankfully switched to me running towards something. But it those were the main two things that I remember very, very well since it just kind of almost concluded about 3 years ago of the hardships of getting to where I am.
So I know that our listeners like us deal with the pressure from family and things. So how did you navigate creating your own path with your siblings following in your footsteps, but also trying to prove to your parents that you were on now the path that was meant for you?
I think it was just the relentless want to prove that there was something in the thing that I was working on. Like for me, I very on saw like, hey, because people can now just self-publish their own books, this is going to be a thing. This is going to be a new thing that people grow to. Of course, when I published my own book, people were like, oh, how did you do that? Like, it's so cool. So what I kept doing was, because I knew that I'm very much an early adopter kind of person, I just kept adopting the new thing that as it was starting to rise up. And then because of that, of course, it was easily translatable as success. So what I kept doing was, even though like my mom and I were fighting, my dad was kind of just disappointed as well, and like seeing that, I still kind of kept following this gut feeling that I had, that there's something here, there's something that I want to do here, there's something I want to grow into. And eventually, as I kind of stuck to the path that I was creating, I started getting like mini successes. I started getting like, hey, the publishing company is now producing a lot of really good bestsellers. And then when I started to XU, it started off as a lot of speaking gigs, and as an introvert, it makes my head spin, but now I'm kind of used to it. But it was then something that, and this is always funny for me to say, that my mom could brag about, that my mom could say like, oh, look at my daughter, she's doing this, she's doing that. So then it turned from fighting to like, oh, I you're doing so well. So it was me kind of just, again, tenaciously sticking to, I see something here, I see something beyond what most people have seen, and I'm excited to actually show people what it looks like.
So, just curious to know, what are those conversations like with your mom and dad now on this side? Like, do they say that they have regrets about not supporting you, or like how has have you seen your life changes change the way that your family looks at things? Because it has to have made it different for even your siblings to come behind you and create their own path.
So beautiful that you asked that, because sadly, about 2 years ago, my mom passed of cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
No worries. It was she lived a very beautiful life. My mom was a very vivacious woman. She was very outspoken. She lived life. She traveled whenever she wanted to. She basically set that path for me, but she didn't know that was the path she was setting for me. But right as she got diagnosed right at the end of 2020, which she came to the city that I'm living in, which is the second largest city in the Philippines, and because it was the only place that she trusted to get a diagnosis, because our hometown wasn't the best.
Right.
So when she got diagnosed, it was only me and her, because it was right in COVID. You can't really go into the hospital with other guests. My dad was on the other island, because you had to have a special pass to be able to go through the city. It was all this other stuff. So when the morning after she got her diagnosis, like it was like confirmed, everyone, we were all bawling, we were all crying, we were all like figuring out, like, do we do chemo, do we do everything else? It was like 6 a.m. and I always will treasure, I've snapshotted in the moment in my head. She's like, Leanne, I'm proud of you. You went against me. And she knows, she's very self-aware about who the person that she is. She went against me, and you've
Hi, I'm Dr. Kaci, not your typical clinical doctor. I am an ordained minister, but not your typical minister. I am also a certified life coach, love coach, sex coach, solution focused coach, transformation coach, and more. I have a whole lot of information that I would like to help you grow with. And I hope that soon I can help you be the best you that you can be. Confidence, spirituality, and purpose. That's wholeness, complete.
And this, you've built your life to this, and I'm proud of you. And and it wasn't that she was saying it just because of this looming thing over her head. She said that to me in different times, but of course at that moment when she said, like, she went against me and you've built this and now other people can see this, like I said, I've snapshotted that moment in my head forever, of like the two of us. She loves it when I snuggle next to her in the hospital bed. So we were snuggling in the hospital bed. I was very much an adult. I was 25. And now I have that forever. Then for my dad, he's just my dad is a very supportive teddy bear of almost anything. He will ferociously protect me and berate me if I'm doing something wrong. But then he will like lovingly support me every step of the way. So for my dad, I remember when he turned 50 a few years ago, he's like, Leanne, if you don't succeed in this, by the time I'm 55, you're gonna go to law school. And I'm like, Okay. And then last month, my dad turned 55 and I reminded him of that conversation. He's like, oh, yeah, it's a good thing you didn't listen to me.
Oh my God. So first off, you got me a little teary-eyed a little bit talking about your mom and your last conversation where she was actually able to tell you about how much she loved the way that you really paved your own path. But then it also brings me so many smiles to hear your dad, able to support you and really like you to remind him like, well, I did succeed, that is always a great, successfully proud moment. As a listener of the story, I'm over here like, yeah, I'm glad that it worked out. And not because of the possibility of failure, but that you were able to set a path for your siblings. So how has that impacted your siblings' ability to go off and do their own thing?
So it's funny because about 3 years ago, was it 3 years ago? No, almost four. 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, 2019, my sisters were like, Ate, our Ate is older sister in Tagalog. Ate, how did you do the work from home thing? So then that was kind of the inkling in my head, like, oh, they see it. They understand that this is now a path for them. And honestly, they were the ones who inspired me to do my whole YouTube channel. Because anytime that they asked me about something about work from home, I would just do a video on it, post it, and then would see it. They share it with their friends. And that was kind of a lot of fun for me to be able to, because they were at the age that I was when I started working from home. They were 15 and 16, I think, at that time. And they were curious about it. And now they know that they can get jobs anytime. Anytime that they need to save up for something for themselves, even though they have like allowances and everything else, they're like, oh yeah, I have this writing gig. I just to finish this essay and I get like so and so paid. And I'm like, that was the path that I wanted to set for them.
I'd be so nervous about working from home. Not that I'm nervous about working from home. I think I'm more cautious about the companies that advertise working from home because it feels like a gray area to me. Like, I don't know if they're legit. I don't know, how the structure of it is. And in America, there are so many scams going on. I don't know if y'all face it there like that.
Yeah.
But
so it's harder. This is the third world country, so people just take advantage of us sometimes. Yeah.
Listen, they take advantage of us here like we a third world country. So it makes me a little bit more cautious and I'm nervous a little bit. So what or how has the struggles that you faced in growing your business and making a path for yourself, how has it changed you as a person?
I would say that I am so basically, if I was talking to 27, if I was going to talk to my 17-year-old self, this would be so foreign. Because entrepreneurship was something that I wanted to do. And again, I love my mom, but she kept, and anytime that I said like, hey, I want to do this business, she was always say no. Like, you have the path, we have the plan. So entrepreneurship was just something like I really wanted to do, but I kept like being steered away from it. So having this life there where I can create things, like I can, last night I stayed up until midnight, which is not a good idea when you have a 7 a.m. call, building a whole employee handbook because I just got sparked that idea. And I love it. I love having those times where my brain just kind of like, hey, have we tried this? I'm like, oh yeah, because of all of the books, all of the mentors, of the people that I met, I'm able to create things out of thin air, almost not really fully thin air. But it's an amazing path to be on, that even when the times where, of course, the times like I doubt myself, the imposter syndrome, I sometimes wake up with anxiety for a variety of reasons, but it's been a path that I would not have chosen anything other, just because like it's been interesting, it's been fun, it's been keeping me giving me a life basically that, again, 17-year-old Leanne would never have thought was possible, was even there. So I'm very, very grateful that I was like given the opportunity to like be able to have a really good mentor. He's still my co-founder in 2XU, because when I got that CEO job at the publishing company, when I wanted to start my own business, I wanted to partner with my boss because he had a lot of the path figured out already. And I'm like, okay, you'll be my consultant. I'm hitching you in here because I like working with you. And it's been this June, it's going to be 9 years working together. So it's just been a fantastic ride.
That's great. So For our other entrepreneurs that will listen, how have you coped with the anxiety of doing your own thing and starting and running a business?
I think for me, it's always keeping in mind that I am doing it for something bigger. And as cliche as that sounds, because like I will forget and I do forget. Like I started this because I want to help 1 million Filipinos people to work from home. And of course, in times when we lose clients or one of our assistants leave for different reasons, it's kind of like disheartening, or we're not hitting the goals that we've set early on in the year. It can be very disheartening, but I also really keep in mind that it's not just a one-time thing that I'm building. I'm building something that I want to last forever, and it's not just for 2XU as an executive assistant company. I want to start a lot of other mini companies around it, to support it. So it's that of like, it's not just about me, but it's about me. It's about future Leanne and future other people who have this path now, because of what we're currently building and what we're currently working on. So it's focusing. Whenever I forget, that's why I have my vision board in my background and my vision board on my phone or everywhere else, because it reminds me, yes, I'm feeling this way at the moment, but it doesn't have to mean that I have to feel this way forever. And I know, because I've gone through this a lot of the trial and failure, I've succeeded, and the universe is always on my side anyway. So I just have to get to the other side, building myself with it.
If there was anything about your life that you could change, what would it be and why?
Think I would have worked on my own, which of course always a retrospective kind of thing. I think I would have loved to work on my own insecurities when it came to social circles, because that was a mistake that I sadly kept making as an entrepreneur. Is I kept trying to become friends with employees, which of course I didn't see it that way at all. They felt that they had to be forced to be friends with me because I was their boss, which of course now seeing it, I was like, that probably should not have done that. But because again, wasn't able to work on that part of myself, wasn't able fully aware that that was a thing.
And then you were younger, so you got to give yourself a little bit of grace.
That too. I do sometimes just think about it of like, okay, if I worked on that, then different things would have come upon, I wouldn't have, this and this and this. But also at the same time, like, same thing that you just said, I'm only 27. At least now I have learned that lesson. So then moving forward, and hopefully my long life, I will keep having that lesson with me. But it is that. It's mostly because I know that I did hurt some people. I know I did confuse a lot of other people as well. So that is the only thing, just because other people got affected about something I was working on within myself.
What are your goals for 2XU?
So it was one where I kind of when I started 2XU, I had this vision. I was like, I want to create this big basically not really fully admin, but executive assistant company, where then whenever the client says like, hey, I need you to help me produce more content, they'll say like, hey, 2XU actually has a content marketing division, or we can have it add on to your services, or hey, we have bookkeeping services. So that's what I see. Is I see 2XU as kind of a very, very good nucleus, and then I want to build businesses around it to support the EA on what the client needs. That's kind of how I see it for 2XU.
And if you could give advice to someone that could follow along in your path or something different, what advice would you give?
It's one that I've said a lot before, of passion can take you anywhere, and that's kind of been my path of following this passion of mine, of curiosity as well, and creativity. That if you follow on the path that you love doing, that excites you, that gives you the sense of happiness, that of course isn't hurting anyone, it can very, very much surprise you. Like, it can be very much something beautiful. And like, the path that I've taken has been weird and funny and beautiful, but it's been me following my passion of whatever it was that sparked this joy and happiness in me to keep moving forward, because you can never really go wrong when you're doing that. You could probably, like, again, for same thing as me, like, could probably disappoint a couple of expectations, but as long as it's something that, again, doesn't hurt anyone, but it lights you up with joy, you should probably push forward towards it.
And you said you have some books. Can you tell us about your books and the products that you offer, how we can find you?
So I definitely don't recommend getting my books just yet, because the books that I did publish were all fiction stories, were all like literally teenage Leanne written. However, right now I am writing a new book on how to successfully hire and manage a virtual assistant. We're just releasing in 2XU an AI playbook. We're calling it the AI prompt assistant. So it's a collection of all of the prompts that a lot of our EAs and clients have been using with ChatGPT in the last couple of months. So then it's pretty just quick and helpful. They're all going to be on our website. And that's kind of the fastest way to get to know what we're currently working on. It's just checking out our website for the products and things that we're currently also building to support our EAs.
And what is your website again?
2xyou.com.
What's your YouTube? Because you did say you were doing YouTube videos.
Yeah, so it's all just under my name, just Lacaba. I talk about how to work from home and also how to hire from home. So like right now I'm doing a series on ChatGPT. So it's like how to do content as a virtual assistant and how to use ChatGPT for your marketing for entrepreneurs. So I talk both sides, which is always a fun mirror to play with.
Well, Leanne, I am thrilled, excited, and just overjoyed with where your company is going in the future, but also to just have you on and share your story about your overcoming and really pursuing your own path. There's a lot of people that dream of doing things that is outside of the box, but so many people are afraid of just trailblazing. And you are a great example of that for all of our listeners and viewers. So I really appreciate you for being on the show and sharing your story with us.
Well, very much happy to be here. I love the back and forth between the two of us, and we both know the path of being an entrepreneur and creating a freedom for yourself is not easy, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. So before we go, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom is being able to do the things that I love. That's the main thing, without anyone stopping or pushing. It's the freedom to be able to do the thing that I love.
Well, that is amazing. Everyone, that has been our show for today. Thank you, Leanne, again for coming on. And until next time, everybody, Speaking Freedom TV is out.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.